Sean, when you're evaluating an opponent like UConn, what really stands out? What makes it so obvious that they're a good basketball team?
Well, they obviously they have tremendous talent, but I also think that in addition to their individual, super talented players, they have great depth. So their talent is really in two ways. It's an individual player like Sanogo, that may be the Big East Player of the Year, certainly one of the best players in college basketball, and it's others, but it's also the guys that don't start the game. Like if you really watch them closely, their bench seems to spark runs, make big plays, and different players who come in off the bench really help them win. They're 9 deep, and the guys 6, 7, 8, and 9 are quality. They know their role, and they play with a lot of confidence. I think the second part, they're very balanced in that they're good on offense, but they're equally good on defense. It isn't like a great offensive team that maybe you can catch them on a night where they're not defending. They play with great energy. Sometimes it's their defense that beats you. Sometimes it's their offense that beats you. And most of the time, it's a combination of both. And, I really believe this. I think they're one of the premier teams in the country. And if they're a 1 seed or a 2 seed, that's what they look like to me. So having said that, when you beat them, or if whatever team does, if anybody does beat them, that team is going to have to play a great game. And that's really our focus, to try to play a great game, here at home and see where we go.
What does a great game look like from Xavier?
Well, the one thing that we haven't really checked the box on to this point is having a super low turnover game. I mean, a game where at the end of 40 minutes you look and say, Xavier had 7 or 8 turnovers for the entire game. They played their style, they played at their pace, but they seem to take care of the ball better in this game against UConn than any other game. Because if we do that, I think that helps us go against their defense, meaning they're not going to get the easy ones off of our turnovers. And look, we're going to have to score. Like, this isn't a game that's going to be won in the 50s. They have too much firepower. Whoever, again, beats them, they're going to have to play a great game on both ends.
Sean, it's only December, but how important is it to beat a premier team in such a premier setup like this?
No, I mean, our schedule is littered with great opportunities. You could have said the same thing before we left for Portland. You could have said the same thing when we played Indiana at home or at UC or West Virginia at home. I think the good news for us is in the 14 games that we've played this year, we haven't ducked the competition. And we've played against the best. Some of the games were played here at home. Others were played in Portland, Oregon, on a neutral court. And then we've played on the road now as well. So, when this game ends, I think we're at Villanova next. You can say the same thing. So, that's the great part about playing in a conference like the Big East Conference. You're tested night in, night out. There are no easy opportunities. And when you win, we should all feel tremendous joy because you beat a good team. And in this case with UConn, you're playing against one of the best teams in college basketball. No doubt about that.
I have to think with the schedule you have played, you mentioned you have to feel ready for a moment like this, considering the competition you've gone against already this year.
Yeah, when we played Indiana, I tried to kind of give myself a pep talk in talking myself into that we're ready. But, a new staff, a new coach, game in early November, we just weren't together long enough in my mind to be the best that we could be on that particular night. Still turned out to be a great game, but we ended with a tough loss. I fast forward to tomorrow's game. I feel much more complete and sure about our team, and we've been together through a lot more things. We've practiced longer, and I think we have a better idea of who we are and maybe what it takes. So that doesn't mean that we're going to win, but I do feel a lot better about our team as we approach, this big game, maybe than I did or any of us did earlier in the year.
We've talked an awful lot about Jerome Hunter, Desmond Claude, some of these guys who come in off the bench and really need to sustain your level so there's not a drop-off. Jerome has really lived up to that. And I'm curious, how do you get a guy to buy into a role, maybe a role that he wasn't necessarily in last year? How do you get that out of him?
Well, I would say that, it has not been easy for Jerome. He's had to really accept doing a few things less than he has done in the past. And then we've really asked him to check the box in some high effort categories like offensive rebounding. But, you think about his impact at St. John's. He had 6 offensive rebounds in, I think, about 15 minutes of action. I mean, that's one heck of a stat. Like, did he help us win? Absolutely. And he's now done that a number of times. And I believe that he's gained more confidence. I think he knows that me as the head coach, trust him more. But he's really earned our trust. One thing that I keep coming back to with Jerome, he's been one of our best players in practice from as far back as the beginning of the school year. And I've never seen a player who's one of your best players in practice for a long period of time not be able to translate that into a game. And I think that's what we've seen from Jerome. But he's more dependable. I go back to the Seton Hall game. His defense and his key plays were a big impact on that game as well. So I think Dez and Jerome have solidified themselves as kind of like our 6th and 7th men. And now I think we're looking for maybe 2 more guys to just continue to grow and develop, because our bench is important. When you play the schedule like this, I mean, you have to be able to get some firepower off the bench. And I think that's what UConn really is blessed with. When they go to their bench, game in, game out, somebody off that bench comes in and impacts their wins.
A year ago, UConn came here to Cintas Center. Xavier beat them, and you were here for that game, just in the stands watching. Does that cross your mind at all about like how far things have changed for you? Does that put anything into perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't thought about it like that, but you are correct. That was the game that I came back to I was bored. Just to make a trip this way. Was not back in Cincinnati. My wife and I, for about a decade almost, because we lived so far away. And, our intentions were to come in and see family, see friends, and then, connect and catch a Xavier game. So that happened to just be the one. But that was a good win for them a year ago. I will tell you, much different scenario this year with UConn. I think they're clearly, at another level of play and quality. And, and for us, I think the experience that a lot of our current players went through a year ago have really helped them. And so, my hope is that it's a great game and that we put ourselves in a position to leave with a hard-fought Big East win. I know that we're going to have to play a great game to do it, but that's our goal, to try to do that.
I know a lot of times in college basketball, the conversation for team and their goals is to get to the NCAA tournament and do what you can in March. But for your program, for you personally, how important is a Big East Conference championship? And considering right now, it seems like UConn's going to be one of those teams you're battling with. How important is this game to that ultimate goal?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably too early to think in those terms simply because, here we are, late December. But, yeah, I mean, look, I think the Big East Championship, whether it's the tournament or the regular season, is going to go through UConn. I don't mean any disrespect to anybody else. Certainly Villanova has every right to believe that they're going to win it again based on the last 10 years of their program. I understand that. But I'm just looking at UConn right now, and I'm looking at the teams they've played, the teams they've beaten, how consistent they are, the margin of victory. And they got what it takes to have a great season. I mean, they're 14-0 right now, and that's hard to do by itself. So somebody's going to beat them one day, I think. I don't know if they'll go undefeated. And, I think each of us that are in the Big East, what we're all going to try to do is, play a great game, because that's what it's going to take.